a lot of people like to ask, I think, what is an intelligent question? And then I see a lot of unintelligent answers being given to that question. So, and I just like, we can even clip this and post it or whatever. What is the value of a half win? And I see even like really smart people answer this question. And I'm like, I just disagree. They don't have to be wrong because they're smart. And honestly, a lot of them I think are smarter than I am. But like, I don't understand where the answer comes from. So I'll see some people be like, it's like 20 cents, or it's like, it's like 4% or whatever. Like a half win has to have some like stable amount of value. So like the difference between 10 and a half and 11 for Kansas City. I mentioned in the like, how do I simulate the season? Um, it's about creating a distribution because some teams are going to have a lot of volatility. Think Jacksonville, where if you told me Jacksonville won 11 games next year, I would actually not be surprised. If you told me they won 2 games, I would actually not be surprised. But if you told me Tampa, whose win total is 11 and a half, won like all of their games, I would be really surprised. And if you told me they won like 8 games, I'd be shocked. And I think Brady would have had to have missed time in order for that to have been true. So like that's what I mean by volatility. So like if that's true and every team every year is all of 32 of them are all different, then like the value of a half win for every team is actually different. And it's never the same for any two teams. It's based entirely on the distribution. So like for some teams, the distribution is going to be really clustered around like the win total number. Like, oh man, like this team's going to win 7, 8, or 9 a lot, and their win total is 8. So the value of half wins from 7.5 to 8.5 will be like there should be very like the price on that you would be willing to pay a lot for it because
Just
they're
to
going to
slam it
finish
home,
around those
can you give
numbers
a
a lot.
team? Can you give a team that's like a good example of what you're talking about, just so people can
Well,
visualize it
which
or
end of
think
the
about it
spectrum
like
do you
that?
want? You want? Well, I gave you
Oh,
Jacksonville as the
well,
really volatile team.
in this particular instance, where like it might
Stable.
actually matter. Yes.
Oh, stable. I'd say Tennessee is really, really a stable team. They have a coach who's gone over his win total projection every single year he's been the head coach. Quarterback's the same. A lot of the roster's the same. Win total's 9.5. I feel really confident that their projection is going to be like narrow. Like it's going to be a lot of like 8s and 9s and 10s and 11s, basically, for Tennessee. More than more than like San Francisco if it's Trey Lance, who has a win total that's almost exactly the same, or for Russell Wilson in Denver because he's never played with this coach or in this climate or this team with this collection of players. The values for like the projection for Russell Wilson or the distribution for Russell Wilson will be wider. So like some teams like the half wins are very meaningless. Like they're less value. Like Jacksonville half wins. Nobody has a clue how many wins Jacksonville is going to finish this with year. 5.5, 6. Who cares? Like they're like they just like their range of potential wins is like 10 wide. Who cares what the like that you actually wouldn't even pay a lot for a half win. You'd rather be volatile and like pay up and like get better juice on a win total number that's higher. But a team that's like really concentrated, I even think like Minnesota 9 seems really concentrated to me, where it's like it's Kirk Cousins and a ton of these players. They swap the coach. Like really, like there are 4s with Minnesota, or there are like 13s with Minnesota. Like really, there are. Whereas like Miami, there could be some 4s and 13s. Like they're in the same range. So again, like if that's true, then if anybody tries to answer the question, what is a half win worth, with any kind of general answer, to me that just strikes me as like way wrong. Like it speaks to like that somehow we assume all teams function the same way in terms of how we project them over the course of a season. So like that is a question that I get all the time, and I see it asked all the time, and I never see anybody give that answer to it, and it always like flummoxes me why that's the case. So like I'm not saying that's the right answer. I'll just say like that's my answer to the question, basically about like what a half win is worth. It's going to be different for every team. Ask yourself like how volatile do you think the team is? If the team's not volatile a lot, then you're probably going to want to pay way more for the half wins around those numbers because they're going to land in that range a lot. If the team's insanely volatile, then the half wins are like almost irrelevant. And I'm not saying like that's an exaggeration. They're not irrelevant, but like they're way less valuable because like who's to say that they're going to land anywhere around that number? Like there's just it's going to happen way less of the time. Like Jacksonville's like a perfect example of a team like that. So that didn't answer your question whatsoever, but I think that's important.